This is lecture 15A for Biology 177, covering muscle OIAs. This is a short lecture just giving you the list of all the muscle OIAs and a brief overview of what they are, why they're important, and how to learn them. So OIA stands for origin, insertion, and action. And we covered these in lecture 15, but just expanding upon them and revisiting them. Origin is the end of the muscle that is attached to a bone that generally doesn't move. So it's the immovable portion, hence origin. Insertion is the insertion on the bone that moves the most. So it's going from the origin, immovable bone, to insertion, movable bone. And the action is the movement of the muscle when the insertion is pulled, moved closer to the point of origin. So each muscle is going to have an OIA. Now, why are these important and why am I going into depth on these? Well, first and foremost, this is kinesiology. Kinesiology is the study of human movement, and so we're going to spend a good amount of time on the OIAs so you have a good framework to move forward from. Now, they give us more information than just location. They give us a more exact location reference, understanding where all of the muscle attaches on the body. And this allows us to understand movement and function and even the purpose of why the muscle is shaped the way that it is. Next, it allows us to address problems in structure from function. So an example of this is if it hurts to move your arm above your head, you can know, well, that movement is abduction and it's starting to hurt. Well, there's only a few muscles that actually perform abduction, supraspinatus, deltoid being part of those. And this is going to help us to formulate a plan to make these better. So this is the foundation to learn how to correct those problems. Finally, it can allow us to understand how we can address movements and train muscle in varying professions. So in physical therapy, we use a lot of the OIAs to understand how muscles actually work and be able to actually address different injuries and rehabilitation programs. We do the same thing in performance coaching, where we're actually training specific muscles to be able to perform specific tasks and produce more power. I'm going to give you two examples of muscle OIAs from the actual lecture notes and just kind of give you a visual representation of these. The first is going to be pectoralis major. Pectoralis major origin is clavicle, sternum, and ribs 3 through 5. The insertion you can see is on the proximal humerus. Its action is going to be to pull that humerus closer to the point of origin, performing adduction, bringing the arm closer to midline, and flexion, or lifting the arm up anteriorly. Gluteus maximus is going to be our next example. Here you can see the gluteus maximus. It's going to be the butt muscle, and its origin is the ilium, sacrum, and coccyx. So you can see where it actually attaches to those portions of the bottom of the vertebral column and the hip bone. It will insert on the femur in the IT band, or iliotibial tract, which we'll learn more about later. Its action is to extend and rotate the hip laterally. And you can think when you actually just stand and squeeze your butt, your hips are going to open up, your pelvis thrusts forward, and your femurs externally rotate slightly. So these are just two examples that I've gone through, and I've given you visual representation so you can see how the origin and insertion all work together to perform the action. Now, a few resources for you. First and foremost is the Lecture 15A notes that will accompany this brief presentation. The full list of required muscles and their OIAs provided are on these lecture notes. There's also OIA flashcards that are available on a Cougar Courses link during this week. They were made by a student, April Lipsky, who actually took the time to kind of go through it because she couldn't find a good resource online, and they are fantastic. Each one of these, and they're based on the Lecture 15A OIAs from your notes, each one of them is going to have the name of the muscle, and to help you learn it, it has a highlighted picture of the muscle with the origin, insertion, and action next to those. So thank you, April, for that. Finally, there's the visible body week 8 and 9 activities to cover the axial and appendicular skeletal muscles. You'll cover more muscles than what is covered on the OIAs, but it's going to help give you a visual representation of each muscle to better learn their location and understand the origin, insertion, and action.